This is a production of PBS Charlotte.
Just ahead on Carolina Impact.
Weeks after the storm, and they're still cleaning up after Hurricane Florence. I'm Jeff Sonnier. Stick around. We'll take you here to the Wilmington area to show you how the cleanup's going and to show you how Mother Nature is also cleaning up after the storm.
A local public and charter school have joined forces in an effort to better serve their community and their students. I'm Tanisha Johnson. I'll have more on that partnership coming up on Carolina Impact.
And parents learn from each other thanks to virtual community. We'll introduce you to the biggest parenting website in Charlotte. Carolina Impact starts right now.
Carolina Impact, covering the issues, people, and places that impact you. This is Carolina Impact.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. We were lucky this time. Lucky that the most expensive hurricane in North Carolina history didn't do its worst damage here in the Charlotte area. Lucky that Florence this year wasn't more like Hugo back in 1989. But down east in the Wilmington area, Hurricane Flo leaves a mark that isn't easily erased. Tree damage that will take years to regrow. Wind and water damage that they're still cleaning up. Beach neighbors there even wonder about the water itself. In this week's Planet Carolina report, PBS Charlotte's Jeff Sonnier takes us to the coast, where Flo made landfall weeks ago and where this storm is still part of everyday life.
Yeah, the first thing you notice about these beaches near Wilmington is what Florence did to the dune line. These dunes used to slope gradually out to the water, but then came the storm surge and, well, there went the sand. 2 or 3 feet of sand now missing, gone. Eventually the dunes will build back, but it'll take a long time to undo what the wind and the rain from Florence left behind.
It's sunrise here at the Curie Beach Pier, and time for the first cup of joe at the diner that survived Flo.
A lot of roof damage, a lot of wind damage. I've seen some flooding. Just a lot of wind, more wind damage than flood damage here.
Customers swapping storm stories as they order up their morning eggs and bacon, alongside old pictures taken of other storms that came ashore years before.
This is my house, and this was the flooded area.
John Blamey shows us his own pictures from Flo just a few weeks ago.
There's 38 inches of water, so the beds, the couches, everything had been underwater for about 3, 4, 5, 6 days.
But Blamey says at least the upstairs of his little pink house at Carolina Beach is still livable. For thousands of others, well, weeks after the storm, the line outside Wilmington's FEMA Disaster Center still spills out the door.
Come on, sir. Come on down for me. Keep it going, keep it going. Come on, ma'am.
With volunteers still handing out free boxes of food for the families. Free diapers for the kids. The basics you need every day at home, even if for now many storm victims don't have a home.
Have a good one.
Never stops, does it?
Never stops, never stops. But this is why we out here, is helping out the people. So I'm just grateful to be out here, and I'm blessed to be able to bless somebody else.
But getting people back into their homes after a hurricane means cleaning up first. And in some cases, finishing up the job that the storm started.
Wow, that was close. We're in the Forest Hills neighborhood in Wilmington, and with a name like Forest Hills, you can figure most of the damage here, tree damage.
If you were in Charlotte for Hurricane Hugo, you'll remember scenes like this, now all around Wilmington instead. Trees you thought would never come down, now laying on the ground, carved up and piled up at the curb. Miles of piles, and not just tree debris from the hurricane winds either. In this storm, also flooding debris from the heavy rains, still sitting outside so many homes. And while the cleanup after Hurricane Florence continues, there's also a second cleanup going on. You can see it in these satellite pictures.
We're on the ferry between Fort Fisher and Southport, where the Cape Fear River comes together with the Atlantic Ocean and where all those pollutants, all that runoff from the storm and the rain after the storm are washing into those swimming areas along the coast that are so popular. As far as the water quality, it gets better every day now.
Yeah, crew member Mark Picciano sees Mother Nature's cleanup close up every day on board the ferry. Every tide turning the polluted waters of the Cape Fear a little less brown, a little more blue.
As the rivers drain out into the ocean, I think the water quality is getting back to normal. You got the tide that comes in every 12 hours that flushes this river in and out all day long, so same thing with the ocean.
And while the beaches seem less crowded than normal since the hurricane, swimmers don't seem to mind. They say, come on in, the water's, you know.
It's fine, it looks fine like the last time we were here a few months ago. So I ain't worried about it at all.
No, they lifted the ban. I'm sure professionals did what they had to do to make it safe.
Same story for the fishermen, who still crowd the pier and don't seem to fear the effects of Florence and her flooding.
Yeah, when that foghorn blows, I'll be coming home.
From the pier, you can hear the music from this annual So Long to Summer concert, which this year feels more like a goodbye, good riddance, farewell to Florence, too.
I think I'm going to keep this picture and put it up as a memory.
And you know, there's this little diner across from the pier at Curie Beach that might have the perfect spot for Flo, alongside Hazel and Fran and all the others.
Yeah, not sure there's any one single iconic photo that sums up the aftermath of Hurricane Florence. No one picture of a house destroyed or a roof torn off, but maybe it's those images of those flooded rivers. And also what you can't see, the flooding that happened inside the homes, behind the walls, where folks will be cleaning up for a long time. Amy?
Thanks so much, Jeff. So how much damage did Florence actually do? The governor's office puts the Florence price tag at $13 billion. And that's just here in North Carolina. Compare that to $5 billion for Hurricane Matthew 2 years ago, or between $7 and $9 billion for Hurricane Floyd back in 1999. Well, another issue grabbing headlines recently has been heated debate between Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools and the idea of charter schools for towns in our area. First, the town of Matthews asked the state to allow for a charter school rather than using just CMS. Then other towns jumped in. CMS responded that it may now put new construction on hold in those towns. That fight continues, but in the midst of all this heat, we found a remarkable partnership between a CMS school and a newer charter school serving the exact same neighborhood. You may not have heard about it, but it's going so well the two schools may serve as an example for the state and even nationally. Carolina Impact's Tanisha Johnson shows us how it works.
The battle over choice ignited a flurry of headlines and tweets after Matthews, Mint Hill, Cornelius, and Huntersville got the go-ahead to open up their own schools. But in the middle of it all, an exceptional partnership took place. A CMS school, Ashley Park, and a charter movement school, both on Charlotte's west side and both drawing students from the same neighborhood, teamed up.
And so it's been a really beautiful data point to say, whoa, I mean, we're already doing so many things differently and better.
We really just look at if they're not going to our school, they're going to your school, and we want them to be served well regardless. And that kind of just took our walls down and said, okay, we're here for a community.
Tayson's ready to learn. Kamani's ready to learn. Ooh, Jameer is ready to learn.
And everyone is learning a lot. The partnership is the first of its kind in the Charlotte area, giving parents and staff the ability to help all of their kids dream, plan, and create a new pathway for success. Here, teachers assist parents, and parents work with their kids, creating goals for the school year.
I also just feel like when I shifted my lens to recognizing that this was about loving kids and supporting kids everywhere and not just exclusively the kids that walk through my doors, that became a reason to me that I would collaborate with anyone, let alone a school that's also, you know, a quarter mile away.
Eyes on me, eyes on me. I want to shout out some of my amazing rock stars during that last summer rotation.
It's a partnership that surprised everyone. So at both schools, parents are given tips on how to help their child. Teachers are sharing ideas and resources at monthly family nights, which empower and engage parents and children. There's transportation and food for those nights. And they're sharing what's happening in their classrooms and learning of ways to support students.
We're able to completely bounce ideas off one another, say what worked well, what we want to make better, and learn from each other's schools, not just our own experiences.
Sumter says working together was out of the box because there wasn't a blueprint to follow and they didn't know what to expect.
I think especially in Charlotte and in North Carolina, it is a risk just because that hasn't been done, so there's not a lot of successful stories around to measure it by.
Because we're working as a team to be our very best.
But now moving through the second year, it's paying off big time, and their focus on communication on every level with teachers, parents, and students is key.
We read all about our Make Way for Ducklings. Now this story is super special.
So normally it might be that a family walks in and says, "Good morning, Miss Loftus." I say good morning back. What I notice is as families are engaging in these events in this process, the parent and I are having a longer, deeper, more helpful conversation, because what I'm noticing is they just feel more comfortable to do that.
And that feeling of comfort is an indication of important changes here. With better communication, more parents are taking an interest and getting involved, and grades are improving too.
You're earning Scholar Dollars if you are walking in Hall at a voice level 0.
It's rare that you find two schools, both public and charter, in the same community working together, at least here in Charlotte. But when Ashley Park and Movement School got over their fears of losing students to one another and connected, that's when they saw their enrollment increase.
We got new projections in the spring. And so what we're finding is our enrollment is actually above projection for the first time in 3 to 4 years, which is really exciting.
So parents who have choices between these two schools are choosing to stay put. Monica Hamlin, an Ashley Park parent, planned to move her daughter last year.
They told me, don't do it. Let her stay here, and we promise you, we're going to show you that we're going to improve with helping her better herself. So I allowed her to stay here, and I've been happy.
Now she and other parents like Amber Dunn believe it's a new day at both schools, and it can only get better.
I think there are endless possibilities for them to work together.
Both principals feel pretty excited about how far they've come together.
Everyone say, I'm a reader. I'm a reader. Yeah, you are.
We've only reaped tremendous benefit, as in our kids have only reaped tremendous benefit since we made that bold choice.
So I'm just really pleasantly surprised at how this has, grown into a year 2 and hopefully a year 3 beyond that.
The partnership of Ashley Park and Movement School may be a first for North Carolina, but perhaps not the last. These two schools have shown that instead of building walls, it's better to build bridges that benefit everyone, especially the kids in the classroom. For Carolina Impact, I'm Tanisha Johnson reporting.
Thanks so much, Tanisha. Joining me now is Greg Schirmbach, founder and education consultant, and is working with these two schools in this exciting collaboration. Help us understand, Greg, a little bit just how unique this is.
Yeah, so we think it's really unique. Very rarely across the country do charters and districts work together in a way to best support the students and the families they're serving. Even more so, it's even more rare in Charlotte, really rare in North Carolina, and incredibly rare across the Southeast. And so we think creating this formal partnership between these two schools, creating a formal schedule and a comprehensive plan that these two schools are working together to support families and students, we think is really rare across the country.
So you're the project manager really for these parent nights. And the mere fact of having food, we saw in the story, and transportation eliminates some of the barriers for parents to get involved in their children's education. Have you seen the response grow?
Yeah, 100%. We really think these are more than just kind of what we're calling family nights. And so from the outside, it may seem as if, doing dinner and doing transportation and some of those things, which are important and great, but there's so much more. And each night is driven by feedback from families, as well as in collaboration with data from the schools as well. And so they're able to use these nights to offer real resources for families that's relevant to them in raising children, as well as collecting feedback from families about how the school can best support their families, and then of course academic resources and remediation for the scholars as well. And so all three of those things are happening every night, and we're being incredibly data driven about the outcomes that are coming from those nights. And what we've seen have been a remarkable output, and so we're close to averaging between 20, 30, 40% of families showing up every night on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, not only to eat dinner, not only to build community and trust with their school, but also to gain and share resources to best support the scholars or the students at these schools. And so that feedback and that attendance and that engagement from families has been really remarkable.
And so this is not part of the regular expense of educating a child. So in charter schools and public schools, the state pays the school a per pupil rate to educate those students. This is outside of that, so how do you pay for this?
Yeah, that's correct. We've been incredibly fortunate to work with the Wells Fargo Foundation here in Charlotte. Wells Fargo, as many of us know, is really a champion for public education and supporting the improvement of public education. And so at their foundation, you know, Jay Everett, Christy Thomas, Rod Banks have been incredible supporters. They've been solely responsible for supporting the resources of this work. And really understand how innovative this work is. And quite, you know, frankly, it is quite rare to have a charter district partnership and to have a foundation and to have a community resource understand and be willing to support an innovative project like this, you know, is really remarkable, and the philanthropic support is incredible.
As an education consultant, you mentioned your company is in 12 different states. How does something like this expand and possibly become a national state or national model?
Sure. So we know there's schools in every state in America. There's charter schools in about 39 or 40 states across the country. And so, you know, we open source all of our deliverables and our findings. And so we encourage schools, community organizations to take our findings, to build off them and to make them better so we can become better and their organizations can become better as well. And so we have shared our findings from the first phase of this project with a number of constituents across the country, and certainly happy to continue to talk with those organizations as they think about ways to best support their families.
And this hasn't been going on very long, has it?
Last year went on for about a 6-month pilot project, and this year we're starting again for 12 more months. And so we're coming up on the year-long anniversary, and some of the initial findings we've been able to capture have been really powerful.
We look forward to tracking it as time goes on. Greg, thanks so much for your time and your information.
Great, thank you so much.
Well, Charlotte has certainly attracted musicians from all around the world to come play here, but did you know musicians from around the world actually come to Charlotte for a very important reason? Think about certain brass instruments that require a mouthpiece. Making that mouthpiece is a unique art form, and one of the best in the world lives right here. Producer John Branscombe introduces us to Greg Black in Mount Holly.
Mount Holly is a quaint, very personable town. I grew up here, and my dad taught in the public schools for 35 years as a band director. My name is Greg Black. I'm the owner of Greg Black Mouthpieces here in Mount Holly.
I'm Tom Burge, and I am a musician with the Charlotte Symphony Orchestra. I'm a trombonist, and everything about that instrument is cool to me. I've been doing it for about 40 years, which dates me. My art, what we do, we make a sound, and our sound is our signature, all brass players. I have 5 of Greg's mouthpieces, and I have a host of other mouthpieces that I don't use anymore because I discovered Greg.
I make mouthpieces for all the brass instruments, primarily trumpets, trombones, French horns, I do some tuba. I do a lot of customizing for people. For instance, people come to me that want to have something designed specifically for the sound or feel that they want. The inner rim shape will be softer than what it was before. The place where I was working was called Giardinelli Band Instrument Company. The job opportunity came open for me to learn the craft of what I'm doing now. Put it on the lathe, do the back boring first. Each one of those tapers would dictate the airflow, the sound that comes out.
And the smallest changes, you'd be surprised, 1/1000th of an inch can make an enormous difference to the sound that it makes.
I will do the interior work with a forming tool called a tray pan tool. And then from that point, I'll polish it. And then after that, I'll get the name stamped and then the model number stamped. And then I'll sand the outside, and then I'll take it into the polishing room there and prepare it for plating. Yeah, I do a New York Philharmonic, Pittsburgh Symphony, LA Philharmonic, Seattle Symphony, studio musicians in New York to Germany to Japan, all over. These are gauges or templates that I use the majority of the time. So for each one of the Legend series that I have a gauge. Here's Louis Armstrong's Museum Archive piece we were talking about. Here's Herb Albert, and here is Dizzy's. I'm pretty detailed in my work, and I kind of understand what they're trying to achieve in their mouthpiece and what sound they're wanting and what feel they're wanting.
He's like a translator. I do know what sound I'd like to get, and I do hear the differences in different types of sounds. So I can describe to Greg what I want in sound terms, and he can translate that over to what he's going to do specifically with the mouthpiece in order to achieve that goal.
I learned custom mouthpieces this way. This is definitely old craftsman style, and people like it, and it takes a little bit longer, but they seem to appreciate it. I do love what I do.
Thanks so much, John. I'll always remember Dizzy Gillespie puffing out his cheeks when he played, just like you saw in that photograph. It was a signature and iconic image. Who knew? All that would come with a Charlotte connection. Well, there's another kind of connection we're going to make for you now. Parenting today is certainly challenging on a whole new level, and the digital age is not always our friend. But modern technology can also help in parenting too. There are web-based organizations which are hugely helpful to parents. The biggest virtual community for parents in Charlotte is called Charlotte Smarty Pants. Carolina Impact's Jason Terzis has the story.
So let's get this out of the way right off the top, shall we? The name is kind of funny.
My friend Jen, she came up with the name Smarty Pants.
But it's actually not a joke.
And I was like, I don't know, it sounds kind of gimmicky. And then we started using Smarty with everything.
And then it just kind of caught on.
It was so easy to tie in that term with everything that we do, and then we're like, absolutely, this is what we need to do.
Charlotte Smarty Pants is one of the go-to resources for area parents.
I think it started probably with the South Charlotte crew, just word of mouth, and then as the material got more and more relevant to everyone's lives, it just spread and spread.
All things parenting, from pregnancy all the way to heading off to college, are covered by the Smarty Moms, a group of 8 to 10 dedicated bloggers.
We have new content every day, from education, healthcare, camps, sports, activities, giveaways. We have some of the best giveaways in town.
They do a great Mother's Day giveaway, Christmas giveaway, where everyone can sign up and get a chance to win different things.
It all started a decade ago, long before social media became such a big part of people's lives.
We recognized there was a void in really like current daily parenting information.
At the time, Jen Plim had 4 kids, all under the age of 4. She teamed with good friend Jennifer Bunich to create Smarty Pants. It was designed as a place for moms to share information about local places. But just as things got going, tragedy struck. Jen Bunich died from non-smoking lung cancer.
At the time, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this with all of my gaggle of kids and then losing my best friend. But I kind of feel like she spoke to me through the comments that day.
I started reading early on, and I really remember Jen Bunich dying and how sad the entire mom community was. And so I think from there, I just became a regular reader.
With the outpouring of support she received, Jennifer Plim decided to keep the blog going and soon enlisted the help of former journalism major Cheryl Perry.
She said, well, what kind of things do you write? So I sent her a sample. She's like, you're hired.
With similar parenting styles and each raising 4 young kids, Jen and Cheryl became fast friends.
When Cheryl came to Smarty Pants, I really feel like Jen Bunich, who's kind of like our angel in heaven, I feel like she brought her to me.
One of the things I absolutely love about it is Jen gave me such creative license to kind of write about whatever I wanted to write. And as a writer, that's unheard of.
With content posted daily, the Smarty Moms share tips, stories, and advice on just about every parenting topic, and they keep it all local.
Even if it was just sharing a great shoe store place for kids, or the best new ice cream place, or the best place to take your kids for activities.
All their writers are really funny and they can make you laugh. So, you know, kind of the crazy mommy, nutty stuff you have to go through. It's fun to read some of their witty articles and say, oh, I'm not the only one going through this.
I love highlighting local women. I think one of my favorite things to do is to interview just these amazing women doing either it's nonprofits or these businesses that they've started or books that they've written. We have so much talent in the city, and as a Charlotte native, I've loved to see how the city's evolved.
The fun stuff that would always be posted just kind of kept you coming back.
And with an ever-changing social media landscape, Smarty Pants has kept pace, branching off to newsletters, podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Their content is just about everywhere.
It got more serious as the kids got older, like which apps do what, and which little warning signs to look out for on the phone, which things to stay away from, which things are okay.
One of the big topics covered earlier in the year was the movie 8th Grade, and whether or not it was appropriate for teens and even younger kids.
By the way, I like your shirt a lot. It's like so cool. What?
The author of that article had seen it and said, you know, this is some of the shocking stuff, this is some of the really great important scenes, and so it gave me a guide to say, if this was right or wrong for my kids.
Just like Jen and Cheryl, Susan O'Neill is the mother to 4 children. Her family has grown up using Smarty Pants as a helpful guide.
Because then once you realized they were trustworthy, they're like, oh, this is a really great little activity, or this was a great find. I'm so glad that I saw. Then you just knew that was a great resource to go back to.
With 25 to 45,000 unique users each month on their various platforms, Smarty Pants is reaching a good number of moms all around the Queen City.
There are some things that we kind of reissue because they're always important, like car seat safety or drowning awareness.
What started out as a simple blog by a mom with 4 young children has grown into a wealth of information.
I'm so proud of where it is today.
And will continue even when their own kids are all out of the house.
We'll just keep on going.
Not bad for a blog with the funny little name. For Carolina Impact, I'm Jason Terzis reporting.
Thanks so much, Jason. Here's a funny story about how established this group is. Taylor Swift was scheduled to perform in Charlotte, and she got sick and had to cancel. So a mom on Charlotte Smarty Pants blogged about their disappointment, and guess who read that post? Taylor Swift's mom. And Mama Swift invited that group for special access to Taylor at the concert when she came back to perform. Not sure who else can say Mama Swift is a reader. Well, that's all we have time for this evening, my friends. Thanks so much for joining us. We always appreciate your time. And we look forward to seeing you back here again next time on Carolina Impact. Good night, my friends.
Production of PBS Charlotte.